this is during a time where the Exorcist movie had come out, and there was already a fever pitch for spooky stuff and haunted stuff. And
whoa. They just saw The Exorcist and were like, we can make a buck off of this.
We'll get there. We'll get there, yeah.
Oh, this is exactly what this is.
So, however, Amityville's legend spread pretty quickly amongst other paranormal investigators and people who are into this stuff. So 2 months after the family moved out, a quote-unquote psychic slumber party happened, where a bunch of psychics and paranormal researchers went to the house to look for evidence after hearing so much about it. And amongst those psychics that were there were none other than the infamous Warren couple, who were there to feel demonic energies. Now, the wife, Mrs. Warren, claims that she is a sensitive, that she is a psychic. And while she was there, she also claimed that the demon that was haunting the place is different for everybody.
What?
Yeah, the demon, the way you react to the demon is different depending on who you are.
Okay.
Apparently.
All right.
The Warrens are also the only people that have any photographs from that psychic place, the haunted Amityville. And that's where the infamous scary, spooky Ghost Boy photo comes from. Now, I'm sure you've seen it. If you look it up, like Ghost Boy Amityville Horror, you'll see the photo I'm talking about. It's pretty infamous, and people claim it's one of the biggest pieces of evidence in paranormal
I'm looking
researching.
up right now.
You can see him. He's looking over a banister with glowing eyes.
I've seen this picture.
Yes, most people have seen that picture in some way. The Warrens claim while they were there that they were shoved, they heard voices, and felt it while they were there. And then, of course, afterwards, with the Warrens and the Lutzes, tons of books and movies, even so much as, last year or the year before there was a new Amityville horror movie, were made about the haunting that happened in the Amityville in Long Island, New York. Now, the house is owned by somebody. They changed the address, and they don't claim anything is happening while they are there. But that is the legend of Amityville. That is what they claimed happened, why it happened, the murders and such. Did you see the picture, Jesse, of the boy looking over the banister?
Yeah, so according to the story...
Yes.
Professional photographer Gene Campbell set up a camera on the second floor, and it took many photos all in a row, right?
Yeah.
And out of the many rolls of film, only one frame showed the little boy.
Correct.
Out of everything, that is the most interesting thing to me. The rest of it is not like, I don't care about the ghosts and the ghoulies. I'm interested in how that shot was taken.
They show the picture, like if you can find a picture of the boy that was killed in the shootings.
Yeah.
And you compare it to that ghost's face. I've seen this, there's almost like a meme looking image of it somewhere that you can find probably on Google Images. And it's like you see the boy, and he does, admittedly, as much as I'm very skeptical about the Amityville haunting in general, it looks like the kid.
Right. Well,
and that is what interests me.
And
the rest of it I'm kind of like meh, but this photo, however this was done, be it through sly, sneaky ways, or possibly something really creepy and weird, I think this is the interesting thing. This photo alone is
we're going to get to the picture because there is a debunk that's out there that talks about why that picture isn't necessarily of a ghost. But now we're gonna shift gears a bit and talk about the truth of what happened in Amityville. And again, if you guys want to know more, I was reading through fucking GeoCities websites about this stuff over the past week and stuff, and there's so much to talk about as to the truth and the haunting and stuff. So if you want to know more, there's a lot more to learn. Feel free to go research it yourself. We're kind of giving you the highlights of what's going on here. So the truth is, the murders did happen. DeFeo did murder his family, or at least, he was part of a murder conspiracy that happened there. He would change his story in prison about 8 or 9 different times. In court, he did claim hearing voices to be used to get the insanity plea, and it worked. He was sentenced for second-degree murder and sentenced for 25 years to life and put in an institution because he got his insanity plea. We already talked about that. We know that. However, with the Lutzes moving in, one of the things to note is that the question is, why would they make up all this haunting? Well, when the Lutzes moved in, at the time of them moving in, they were in a lot of financial trouble. leading to speculation rather, and motive that the whole haunted house thing was done so they could make money. And again, The Exorcist was really popular right around then, and hauntings were selling like hotcakes, so they made a lot of money off of the books and coming movies that would happen, telling their quote-unquote true story of the Amityville haunting.
Oh, and you can also, so yeah, that makes a ton of sense. More importantly, it also makes sense why the Warrens, for example, would latch on to that, because that's free money.
Yep, and the Warrens would do this a lot. So the Amityville is what made the Warrens famous within the paranormal community, and over the many years of them doing this is kind of what they would do. They would find really popular hauntings and then approach the people and be like, do you want to make some money? And like work with them and do things.
Interesting.
So one of the big things too is that a lot of people didn't believe what was happening. So one person, his name is Rick Moran, he was a big researcher. I know, I said that the same thing when I was researching. He basically came at them with the nerd book and went in detail to find over 100 different, discrepancies between what they claimed and the actual facts of what happened. For instance, one of the claims, the demonic hoof prints that were found in the snow, couldn't have happened when they were happening there because while they lived there, it wasn't snowing. It never snowed while they lived.
Why would they make a lie like that? That's what
I don't know.
I'm more mad that these guys didn't do their homework. I'm more mad.
Right,
I'm more mad it's a bad hoax than that it's a hoax.
Right, it's a dumb hoax.
Yeah, to me it sounds like when imagine you're at a party and you meet a bunch of like really cool people and they start telling stories.
Oh, you get the one-upper?
About, yeah, they start telling some amazing stories and you have no cool amazing stories, so you just start to lie.
Get right, you're the one-upper. You have to one-up them.
Well, but it's also that idea of I start telling you guys a story about how this one time I went out to this party and you know, it was pretty cool and I saw a celebrity there and I think it's really going to impress you, but you're not impressed with the celebrity. So I'm like, oh, and also the president was there. Like that kind of thing.
Yeah, of course.
To me, this reads as like, yeah, there was like weird eyes. Oh, those eyes were like a pig man. And there were demonic hoof prints. And so everyone, you know, he keeps trying to up it so that more and more people become engaged with what, oh, this definitely, which explains to me why so much stuff happened. Because in order to get everyone interested, you had to BS a lot of stuff.
Yep.
So what else?
Yep.
It's like, what else?
So other things. The claim that all the door handles and everything were destroyed or manhandled and broken in a lot of ways. None of the actual door handles and hardware in the house was touched. It was all perfectly intact.
How long would it take to
like if you're gonna move out and claim like yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like if you're gonna run out and leave everything behind, take a screwdriver and a hammer and just like maybe bash up a couple door handles.
Yeah, put some ears on the walls.
That's a really easy one. That's a really, really easy one. However, the people who moved in after and everything, and Rick Moran when he did his research, none of the hardware was touched. Like it was all fine. Everything was okay in the house. Nothing was busted whatsoever.
You said people moved in afterwards?
Yeah, people moved in about a year after all this happened, and they don't talk about it because there's nothing happening.
Yeah, right.
So
right, of course.
They're the ones that actually changed the address from 112 to 108 as well. So
they were just like grown-ups that showed up and they were like, we want to live in this beautiful home.
Right, and they know everything that happened, and nothing's happening because it was a hoax. Anyway, other things. The claim that it was put on an Indian burial ground, that was explained away because what they said is that the tribe mentioned was not from the Amityville area, and at all. Actually, they had inhabited the eastern tip of Long Island 70 miles away, and that the settlers mentioned were never local residents either. And since tactics were clear, when strapped for good material for a book, which this is the guy who wrote the Amityville Horror True Story book, he padded it with quasi-factoids.
He just like went on like little, it's like pretty much exactly what Jesse was saying, but in book form.
Yeah, so the guy who wrote the true story, basically, it's like, imagine going onto, like, Google and being like, Indian burial ground near Amityville Horror House, and just looking for, like, the closest tribe that was nearby and saying that that's where they were buried, when they weren't at all.
Yeah, it seems everything revolving around this is the original family was like, we can make some money off of the hype around The Exorcist. And then everyone else saw, oh my god, these people, whether they believed it or not, they were like, these people are experiencing a thing that we can make money off of.
Right.
So then you have all these different people coming in and trying to make a buck off of this incident. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that continues to this day.
So the two big smoking guns that people point to and being like, this is a big old hoax is, remember that priest that I told you about who came in and blessed the house and all this other stuff? When he was interviewed by Rick Moran, he held to that story until he was eventually put under oath in an affidavit, and he said that he had actually never been to the house and only ever spoke to the family on the phone.
What?
Yes.
Dude, it's such sloppy hoaxing.
Yep. And then the last big piece is that the Lutz's lawyers, who they worked with about getting book deals and movies and all this stuff, when there was a financial dispute between the Lutz's and the lawyer came out saying that the whole haunting story was made up between the family and him over the courses of many bottles of wine on a night to make a good amount of money and scam a bunch of people.
Well, there you go.
Yep. So the photo, by the way, the photo that people like, well, what about the photo? You gotta remember, now that night there was a quote-unquote psychic slumber party. There were 7 people there.
I love that they called it that, like that's a thing.
I think that might just been one of the websites I was reading was called this. I think it was like a news article I was reading. There were 7 people there, and if you compare that picture and like the shirt that you can kind of see between the banisters and the shirt of one of the psychics there, it looks mighty close to one of the other psychics that were at the slumber party.
Oh, really?
So he might have just been caught like walking around.
Yeah, there's a guy named. This is my favorite part. There's a guy named Paul Bart.
Oh man,
who was there as well. He was in a shirt that seems to resemble. I'm looking at
mall
it right now.
security guard outfit. He rides around on a Segway.
It very, very much looks like him.
Yeah.
And apparently there is something called the Amity Truth Board. That is a website devoted to debunking
the hell out of
literally everything about it.
Yeah. And it's really, like, again, like, you don't even have to dig that hard to figure out, like, this is all just a giant scam. The Warrens still hold to the fact that it was, haunted, but of course they would, because they keep getting movies made with them in it and making a ton of money. And George Lutz, the husband, said that he holds to it as well, though he says some of it's real, other parts aren't, but he provides zero evidence that any of it ever happened. And again, he's made a ton of money off of it as well.
He's chilling. He's done. He's done it. How old is he now?
He got what he wanted. How old is he? That's a good question. Let me see if I can. I'm sure. How old is George Lutz?
Probably like 80, right? Something like that.
59.
What?
Well, he was 59 and he died in 2006.
Oh, okay.
At 59 years old. So he died at kind of a young age, but he made his money. He got exactly what he wanted out of the whole haunting thing.
So bold. I wish that you could still do that. That'd be so tight.
Yeah, this is before the internet.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
The Wild West.
Yeah. Of haunting.
You could just lie. You could just lie.
Yeah, and people are willing to believe during that particular time, like, because...
But that's the same thing when people were like, I have this salve right here. If you rub it on your head, it'll make your testicles grow 3 times bigger. Like, get the vigor back in your life.
Yeah,
but impress your lady.
But now, like, when a restaurant uses Popeye's chicken in its chicken sandwich, it's like national fucking news, and like Emerald's weighing in and Gordon Ramsay's weighing in. It's crazy.
And there was actually an interview maybe a decade or 2 ago with DeFeo in prison, and like his story at the time was like he did it with his sister. Do you really think that only one person could go room to room with a gun shooting everybody in their beds and not have like somebody wake up? He's like, you only believe that it's just me because you don't want to believe that there was a second person there, blah, blah, blah. So his story, as far as his latest story that's been recorded, is that he wasn't alone. It was him and his sister.
So is he over the insanity business? Is he?
I mean, because his story changes constantly, he's still considered insane.
I see, but is he like, I heard voices still?
No, that is not what he's saying anymore.
I see.
There's an interview that I just got done looking at where they were asking about him, and they say, do you think he was possessed? And the response from the lawyer was, possessed? Sure, by heroin.
Got him.
There you go.
Blowing him up.
God roasted.
Yeah, roasted. But again, the fact that the haunting and all this stuff didn't happen doesn't take away from the fact that a horrible crime happened there, and that, he deserves to be locked up. But, not every murder is a demonic possession. Like that, clearly there was just a messed up family.
Yeah, I think that's probably the big takeaway here, is that human beings, for whatever reason, we have a desire to explain things,
Yeah.
which I think might be the whole course of this show.
Right,
Is we unexplained things or terrible things, we all have a desire to want to explain them. And sometimes our explanations are insane. The same thing when people are coming up with reasons like why 9/11 happened, right? Like, clearly there must be some spiritual reason why we have failed as like that kind of stuff. And so when people see a young man murder his entire family in a brutal, terrible way, many people don't see it as like that guy was just crazy, and sometimes in life there are crazy people. Some people need to have an explanation, and the idea of a demon turning a young man evil is easier for them to handle than...
Right.
And then you get somebody like George Lutz, who's a piece of crap and exploits the murder of this family to make a ton of money off of a haunting.
At least they cast Ryan Reynolds as the guy last time.
Did they? I never saw it. I've never seen it.
It's
That's the newest movie, right? The Awakening? Like, it's called Amityville Horror, The Awakening,
I think so. I don't remember the name of the one that has Ryan Reynolds in it, but there is one.
Okay.
There is one.
There's like 6 or 7 different Amityville Horror movies.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Unknown, like, a bunch of books.
And it's all Lutz.
You know, again, yeah, it's all Lutz and the Warren.
Damn.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
money-making
Genius.
machine, man.
yeah, piece of shit for exploiting a murdered family, but also financial genius. Like, he got himself out of whatever financial hole he was in and made a ton of money off of it. But again, this is all kind of like a 1-hour highlight of what actually happened. There's a lot to talk about. If you guys want to research, you can look up all of the mob connections that their grandfather had and all this other stuff. And like the conspiracy that the reason that DeFeo went to prison is because his grandfather caught him boning his sister and all this other nonsense. So there's a ton of stuff to talk about, but the thing is, the interesting stuff isn't paranormal. The interesting stuff is what, like, connections to the mob is family
This crazy context.
Right, exactly. So, but that's it. That's Amityville, man, and that went by really fast.
Feels good.
I'm surprised.
Feels good.
Like that was good.
Let me put this out there to the listeners. Do you think it's real? Do you think we're wrong?
I would love to hear
Do
from
you
somebody
think-
who thinks I'm wrong.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I would. I am going to poo-poo 99% of what we talk about on this show. If you think I'm wrong, please explain to me.
And if you have evidence, if you have evidence, like even better.
I want to get you, Jesse. That's my goal.
That's
gonna
kind of
get
my
me?
goal
Yeah,
too.
I want to bring like a story to you guys that just like we're all like, oh my god, this is real.
Aliens is gonna be my thing, man. Like
Well, I'm just saying.
I want to convince you on aliens.
Today was very interested in that photograph. And until I read 5 minutes later that the photograph was a hoax, I was
Damn.
like, oh, that's interesting. This is interesting. But yeah, I am open to being convinced. I just think that until I have evidence of something, then it is not real. Like, that's just the way life works.
And that's how it should be. That's how it should
Back
be.
it up.
I'm all about these crazy things happening, but I'm also one of the ones I want evidence, photographic, audio. Like, give me something to work with. And don't also be like, well, I got this picture of a little boy ghost, but also there were 6 other people in the house, and it's probably just one of them.
Yeah, it's got to really be.
I'll never.
It's never gonna be the tropes. It's like the real shit is never
No.
gonna be the tropes, y'all.
Right. The creepy stuff, the stuff that I believe, or I think there's enough evidence to at least support that it may not at least be normal, is nothing like Amityville. It's always way creepier, usually way more sinister, and more interesting.
It's weird.
Especially when you have, like, you know, visual, audio evidence and all this other stuff.
The thing that creeps me out the most with like the ghost stories is when they like say things that are like really weird. Yeah, that's the type of stuff that trips me out because it's like, how can somebody make up something that weird?
One of my favorite hauntings, it's been one of my favorite hauntings for a long time, and I recently got reintroduced to it, is the Enfield Poltergeist. And I'm excited to get to that one eventually. Especially because the Warrens kind of insert themselves into that and be like, hey, you know, we were here for this, but they were really only there for a day, and that haunting went on for years.
We got to follow them around.
So-
We got to follow their journey. We got to see where
The Warrens? Dude, I live near them. Like, I live in Massachusetts.
Oh, man.
And they're in Connecticut.
Oh, really?
And that's not far. Yeah, that's not far. I should go there and, like, try and, like,
Should interview
annoy the Raggedy Ann doll.
Yeah, should interview him.
Haunt me, Annabelle. Haunt me.
Annabelle.
Well, that'll be it for episode 1 of the inaugural episode of the Chilluminati podcast.
It's fun to say.
Thank you guys
It's
for
fun
watching.
to say.
Yeah, it's really fun to say. It's a great name. Thanks for coming in. That's on you. You came up with it, so appreciate it. We'll get this up on I'm gonna get it up on all the normal podcasty sites that you can get it on. Try to get it up on iTunes as fast as possible and stuff. So if you guys enjoy it, drop a comment, rate it, whatever you got to do. Feel free to follow us on Twitter. You can follow the podcast itself, myself at Matt the Skate.